So I did a video earlier on in the week where I talked about Spike O'Sullivan versus Chris Eubank Jr. The gloves are off. As promised, I was going to follow that up with a full prediction and preview, which I'm going to do in this video. Now, I do see this as a competitive fight. I really do. I think Spike probably will be the best opponent Chris Eubank Jr. has defeated if he is to be victorious this weekend. But I am going to side with Chris Eubank Jr. here. And that's based on looking at both guys. You know, I don't rule Spike out of this fight. For me, Chris Eubank Jr.'s main problem as a fighter is he's defensively incomplete. Billy Joe Saunders exposed that he couldn't really deal with the movement, with the southpaw stance, with the jab. Even in the Chudanov fight, Chudanov was a much more basic fighter than Saunders, but Chudanov was still able to catch Chris Eubank Jr. And I think that while Chris Eubank Jr. is a very offensively strong fighter, I'm not sure he's got the defensive skills. My concern with Spike, however, is that similar to Chudanov, he's simply going to be too basic to find the gaps in Chris Eubank Jr.'s defence. You know, I went to see Spike O'Sullivan fight Billy Joe Saunders, and in that fight, Spike tried for 12 rounds to find a home for one of his big power punches, and he couldn't do it. You know, Eubank Jr. has got the athletic advantage, he's got the movement advantage in this fight, and I just see him as the more dynamic, more athletic fighter. I'm not really sure that Spike is going to be able to land on him. Now, if Eubank Jr. gets silly, gets involved in a brawl with Spike, and leaves his chin wide open, Spike's got a chance. You know, Spike appears to be a very, very big puncher at middleweight, and Chris Eubank Jr.'s chin is actually untested against a big punch in middleweight. You know, he hasn't been in with someone yet with probably with the kind of power that Spike actually has. So I don't rule Chris Eubank Jr. out. I don't rule Spike O'Sullivan out of this fight. He's got a puncher's chance, and he's got a puncher's chance against a fighter who is defensively frail. However, in my mind, Eubank Jr. has a very substantial advantage here in terms of boxing. Put simply, he's just a far, far, far more complete fighter than Spike O'Sullivan. As I say, I think he can move around Spike. I think his jab's better than Spike. And I just think he's got more tools in his armoury. And I think he's more advanced in terms of the work that he does put in. The kind of guy who's going to cause Eubank Jr. trouble is the kind of moving guy who's throwing jabs and trying to box with him and trying to expose that element of his game. I don't see Spike as being that kind of fighter. So whilst I don't rule him out, I make Eubank a strong favourite here. For me, Spike is just too basic, and Eubank Jr. is an improved operator. You know, I've definitely seen improvements in Eubank's game since the Saunders fight. He looked really, really good against Chudanov at times, despite one or two defensive frailties. And I just don't think Spike is the kind of operator who's going to give Eubank problems. As for Spike, he's a tough guy, he's a durable guy. I don't know how he's going to fare here. You know, the Billy Joe Saunders loss was a one-sided loss. And Billy Joe, you know, has proved in many ways he's a superior boxer to Chris Eubank Jr. But I think Chris Eubank Jr. brings a type of pressure and a type of power above and beyond what Billy Joe Saunders offers. So it wouldn't surprise me if on this big stage, Chris Eubank Jr. realises after 6 or 7 rounds that there's a big void in class between himself and Spike. And that if he keeps smart, Spike's not really going to hurt him here. And at that point, don't be surprised to see Chris Eubank Jr. push for the late stoppage and try and get Spike out of there. You know, Spike's another guy, he looks very hard on paper, but he hasn't really been in with anyone like Chris Eubank Jr. in terms of the offensive threat they possess. Yes, Billy Joe Saunders was able to outpoint him and outbox him, but not to render him unconscious like Chris Eubank Jr. could. You know, I make Chris Eubank Jr. a strong favourite here. I don't rule Spike out, but I think Chris Eubank Jr. deserves to be favourite, and I'm not surprised if this goes to a late stoppage. You know, I don't totally buy into Eubank Jr.'s power as much as some people, and Spike is durable. You know, I don't see this being a 3 or 4 round blowout. I think Spike's going to ask some questions and he's going to be a tougher nut to crack. But either Eubank Jr. pretty dominant points or late stoppage. You know, don't be surprised if Spike does 1 or 2 things that still expose that Chris Eubank Jr. isn't a completely finished article here, because as I say, there's still been reasons for doubt for me, even in the improved Chudanov performance. But fundamentally, looking at these two guys, I'm just convinced that at this stage, Eubank is the superior operator. Let me know your thoughts. How are you viewing this fight? Does anyone think there's a chance of an upset here? Many thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this, do give me the thumbs up. I'd appreciate it.